Hey guys, welcome back to Fantasy Tips. My name is Julian, and today we're continuing the series of episodes that I've been making about each NHL team alphabetically, starting with Anaheim, ending with Winnipeg, and today we're talking about the Montreal Canadiens. I'm going to go through the lines that I project for the Montreal Canadiens, and then I'm going to go through their noteworthy players, and I'm going to let you guys know if I think that you should consider drafting them. Before we get started though, guys, please leave a like, hit the subscribe button, and hit that notification bell. And if you want to take your support to the next level, the link to my Patreon is down in the comments. Now, the Habs are my favorite team. I do come from Montreal, Quebec, and I am a very, very big Habs fan. I don't expect the Habs to move the needle a whole lot this year. I expect them to be definitely a bottom 5 team in the NHL, which is why I'm not going to be recommending drafting a lot of players from this team. However, there are always a couple of gems that I do recommend to draft. The lines that I project for Montreal are on the top line, Juraj Slafkovsky, Nick Suzuki, and Cole Caufield. On the second line, Evgeny Dadonov, Kirby Dach, and Josh Anderson. On the third line, Mike Hoffman, Christian Dvorak, and Brendan Gallagher. And on the fourth line, Drouin, Evans, and Joel Armia. Odds are one of those players is going to get traded before the season starts though, so those probably won't be the lines that the Habs start off with. Now let's jump into their noteworthy players, and first on the list is Cole Caufield, and last year he finished with 43 points in 67 games and as a 224th best fantasy player in terms of fantasy points per game. Now, Caufield was absolutely awful in the first half of the season last year, but once the Habs changed coach to Martin St-Louis, he absolutely turned it on, and I expect Caufield to have another really strong season. If you saw him in the second half of the year, you could see that he was really, really fired up and should have himself a really nice year. I do like that he has the dual edge ability, both left wing and right wing. That's definitely something that's going to help his fantasy value. And at around an ADP of 115, I don't mind drafting him there, even though the Habs are not a good team this year. Now, next on the list, I have Nick Suzuki, who finished the year last year with 61 points in 82 games and finished as the 149th best fantasy player in terms of fantasy points per game. Obviously, on a line with Slafkovsky and Caufield, he could be even better this year. However, the issue, like I've been saying in so many videos, is that he is a natural center, which means it doesn't have a whole lot of value in fantasy this year. There are so many natural centers, which is why I don't absolutely love drafting Nick Suzuki this year, just because there are so many natural centers, and there are better value natural centers that you can get later in the draft than grabbing Nick Suzuki here. But still, if you end up grabbing him here, he's not the worst value in the world. And then I have Juraj Slafkovsky, who is by no means a lock to actually make the team this year, but if he does, he should play on that top line with Caufield and Suzuki, and if he does, he definitely could have some serious value playing with the two best players on Montreal. That remains to be seen, but at his ADP, I don't hate drafting him. He's going pretty late. If you can get him even later, like in the 200 range, I definitely probably would take a chance on Juraj Slafkovsky. Then I have Kirby Dach, who the Habs traded guys like Romanov for and got him from Chicago. He was a former 3rd overall pick. Last year only had 26 points though in 70 games, which is absolutely not too great. Was only the 499th best player in terms of fantasy points per game. And yeah, he is slated to be the Habs' second line center this year, but I'm not drafting him. I'm going to have to wait and see how he looks and how he does before I even consider touching him in fantasy this year. I'm not overly optimistic about his fantasy value this year. Then I have Brendan Gallagher, who actually does not have an ADP. The rank that you see there is the rank that NHL.com's top 250 fantasy players gave him, so I did keep him up there at 242. And at that range, if you do get him around 242 in a really deep draft, I don't think he's the worst draft pick in the world, but I don't really see Brendan Gallagher having that much value this year either, guys. He's going to probably be a 2nd or 3rd line player with mediocre line mates, and I just don't see the upside there. He's going to be pretty hard negative this year in terms of plus minus, and he's not someone that I like. Obviously, if the season starts and he starts putting up a lot of shots on goal like he used to and a lot of points, then maybe I'll consider streaming him for a bit while he's hot. But I'm not drafting him as of right now. And then I have Jake Allen, and he's going to be Montreal's starting goalie this year because Carey Price is out for the year. It is confirmed now. With Price being out, Jake Allen is going to get the vast majority of the starts because the backup is Samuel Montembeault, and really he's not very good. So Allen should get almost every start except for the back-to-backs, which actually makes him a decent value pick in points-based leagues. If you don't necessarily need a solid save percentage or solid goals against average or even a solid amount of wins like you would in categories league, in points-based leagues, then Allen will actually take a lot of shots on goal and at pretty much every game, which will actually make him decent value in points-based leagues where shots on goal saves actually count for points. So in those types of league, he's going to be drafted super, super late, and I actually wouldn't mind touching him in those types of leagues. In categories leagues, though, I'm not touching him at all, that's for sure. Then I have Chris Wideman, who last year finished with 27 points in 64 games. Nothing too crazy, but he was manning Montreal's top power play for a lot of last season. Didn't look too bad. Obviously, he's not very good defensively. I'm expecting another really bad plus-minus like he had last year with that minus 25 like you see on the screen. But if he does continue to man Montreal's top power play, and you're in like an insanely deep league, like a 20-man league, and you're really deep in the draft and you need a defenseman, Chris Wideman probably isn't the worst draft pick in the world, just because there is that chance that he does continue to play on that top power play. And I have Josh Anderson, who could end up playing on Montreal's top line with Suzuki and with Caufield if Slafkovsky doesn't make the team. If he does, then he may have a little bit of value because he does hit a decent amount, and he does shoot the puck also a semi-decent amount. As of right now, though, I'm not touching Josh Anderson just because the Habs are not a good team. So for now, I suggest you avoid him. Then I have Mike Hoffman, who last year had a pretty disappointing year with only 35 points in 56 games. This year, if they do deploy him properly on that top power play with guys like Suzuki and Caufield, he could actually see a semi-decent year, but I'm not really expecting too much from Mike Hoffman, so he's another guy who I'm not considering drafting. Then I have Jonathan Drouin, Christian Dvorak, and Evgeny Dadonov, who are all guys who could have semi-decent years, but as of right now, I'm not super high on. Dvorak, Dadonov, and Drouin could all be traded by the end of the year, so they could all definitely gain some value being traded to better teams. Dadonov is the only guy who's pretty much a lock to get traded because he is a free agent at the end of the year and definitely could help a playoff team and their success. So Dadonov is somebody who definitely could be gaining some value towards the end of the year, but as of right now, I'm not drafting any of these guys. And last but not least, I have Mike Matheson, Montreal hometown boy, grew up here, ended up last year with 31 points in 74 games, which isn't bad with the Pittsburgh Penguins, but this year with Montreal, I can see him having a semi-decent year, but only if he does get that top power play spot in Montreal. If he doesn't, I think he'll have a pretty good year, just not something that you're going to want to really count on for fantasy. And that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching all the way through. Please leave a like, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell. If you want to take your support to the next level, the link to my Patreon is down in the description. Until next time, guys, I'll catch you in the next episode of Fantasy Tipped.